Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to make a really fun slider card and we're going to be using products from Lawn Fawn today. So let's go ahead and get started. For paper today we're going to be using the Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White Cardstock. This is a 100-pound weight. And for the ink we're using Spectrum Noir Finesse Alcohol Proof ink, and this is the Noir Black. The first set of stamps and dies we're using are from Lawn Fawn, and there's this little car and the two little bears, and this is the Car Critters stamp set. And then from this set we're using the two birds, the cornstalk, and those two little pumpkins, and this is the Happy Harvest stamp and die set. So I've gone ahead and placed those in my Misty stamp positioner. And for that cornstalk, I'm just going to set that aside. We're going to do that a little bit differently here. So I'm inking up all of these stamps with the Noir Black, and I'm going to stamp these a couple of times. And then off camera, I will stamp some more of the pumpkins. We're going to need quite a few of those. So now that I've got a nice crisp stamping here, I can go ahead and color these in. Today I'm going to be using the Triblend markers. You get 3 shades, the light, the medium, which is in the center of the pen, and the dark. And this one is the orange blend, so I'm going to start off with that one. So I'm starting off with the lightest color first. And what's really nice with these is you get all the shades in one marker. So now I've used the medium and now the dark. Then I'm going back to that light end and I'm going to blend those out. So I'm going to do the same thing here again. The light, the medium, the dark, and then blending that out. Now I'm just doing simple shading here, and that's what I love about these markers is I don't have to think about what shades go together. It just automatically takes care of that for me. So with the earth brown blend, I'm going to go ahead and do the stem on the pumpkin. And I'm going to keep that shading down towards the bottom here, where the pumpkin meets the stem, and blend that out. Now for this other pumpkin here, I'm using burnt orange, the burnt orange blend, and I'm using the same exact technique here. So that'll give me a couple different shades of pumpkins here. And again, I'm going to do quite a few of these, which I'll show you in a little bit. For my little bears, I'm going to be using the gold brown blend and the pale pink blend. And again, I'm going to do the shading the exact same way. I'm adding a little bit of a shadow there underneath his chin and then around his arms as well. And then what I'll do is come in with that pale pink. I'm taking the medium shade here. I'm just going to add a little pink to the cheeks. I'll do that other one the same way. And using the ice gray blend, I'm going to do the steering wheel. So now I'm going to take the ice gray shades. So there's the ice gray blends and the shades, and let me show you that here. So with the ice gray blends, you get IG2, 4, and 5. And with the shades, you get 6, 8, and 9. So the shades give you the darker colors. So you can use these together, which is really nice. The shades are fairly new. Those are the newer ones. So they just extend your color palette a little bit more. So I'm going to grab the shades to do the tire here. And I'm going to use that same technique for blending. And I'm also going to use this for the side view mirrors as well. Now I want to use the lighter ice gray blends to do some of the trim work here on the car and the license plate as well. And I'm going to add the shading to the sides here and just pull in towards the center. The next color I'm using here is the blue turquoise blend. And again, I'm using that light color, then adding that darker color. And I did decide here it needed to be shaded just a little bit more. So the blue turquoise also has a shade one, just like we saw before. So I'm going to grab the shades, which again are the darker tones, and I'm going to grab the lightest one from this pen and just add a little bit of a shadow down here where the car meets the top of the car, and just blend that out. So again, the shades are just extending your color palette a little bit here so you can add a little more depth to your images if you want to. So I'm going to continue coloring the car here, and I'll catch you on the other side of that. For the headlights, I'm using the aqua blue blend. I'm just going to use the lightest color and just add just a little reflection there. That's all I need there. And I'm using my blender pen just to spread that ink out just a little bit. And I know that's hard to see, but it just gives a little shadow. Now with ice gray blend, orange blend, and the ice gray shades, I'm going to do the little birds here. So I'm starting with that lighter palette, and I'm going to do the same thing, just going light, medium, dark. And then I am going to introduce the shades just because I didn't think it was quite dark enough. So I wanted to add a little bit more of that darker color. Now you could just use the shades because these birds are normally black, but I just didn't want them to be that dark, but you certainly could. And then I'm using that orange blend just to do the little beak there. And I did the other bird the same way. So now I've grabbed the coordinating dies, and I'm going to go ahead and run these through my Sizzix Sidekick machine. I've just taped them down with a little bit of purple tape there. And I'll finish all the die cutting there. Now here you can see we have everything. So I've got 6 large pumpkins and 2 small ones. Using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock, I've just cut a piece, just a scrap piece of paper here, and I'm going to go ahead and do my little corn stalks, and I'm going to do 6 of these. So I'm using fossilized amber and rusty hinge. These are the Distress Oxide inks. And to do this is a solid image, so it doesn't have an outline, it's solid. So I'm going to pat on the fossilized amber, then coming in just from the side, I'm going to add a little rusty hinge, and then using my finger, I'm just going to pat that ink out a little bit, just to spread it a little bit more. So again, starting with the fossilized amber, just tapping on a little bit of rusty hinge, just kind of using the side of my ink pad, spreading that out with my finger a little bit, and stamping that down. Then I'm going to grab the coordinating die and die cut all of these. Now I've got my standard A2 size top folding card, and I've got another piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock, which measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And using my simple stitched Hillside borders, I'm going to cut the border for the card. So I want to just find the center of this panel, and then I'm going to line this die up with the center. And I've taken the die that is the most rounded, the one with the most curve on it. And I'm going to run that through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine. And you can see that leaves a nice stitched edge at the very top. So now I want to bring this up, I guess about 3 1/4 inches at the very top. And then I'm going to flip this over, just draw a pencil line here so I know where to cut this. So I'm putting that in my Tim Holtz paper trimmer, and I'm just going to cut that down. So again, that'll sit on the front of our card. For coloring, I'm going back to the Distress Oxides, and I'm using Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn. I'm going to just apply that Twisted Citron all over the front of this panel. Just a nice even coating of that. And then with the Mowed Lawn, I'm just going to come down from the top onto this panel. And then I'm going to go around the edges a little bit, leaving the center the lightest here. And I'll go back to that lighter applicator and just blend that together. I'm going to go back to the Mowed Lawn and just place a little bit on my glass media mat. I'm spritzing that with a little bit of water from my Distress sprayer. And then I'm going to spatter this panel. That's just going to give a little bit more texture to the front of this panel. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. Now I want a panel that's 2.5 inches wide, and this one is about 5 inches long, but we're going to be cutting that down. So I'm going back to that same stitched hillside border that we used before. I'm centering it on this 2.5 inch panel, and I'm taping it down with a little bit of purple tape and running it through the die cutting machine. So that's going to sit right in the center of our card, and it lines up exactly with that stitch border that we had. So now I just want to cut off that excess, and I just find it easier to do it this way just to determine the length once I have everything done. So I'm just going to cut that off, and you'll see that it fits perfectly there now. Now I want to angle it so it looks like the road is coming down towards the end of the card. So I'm going to angle in. So it's 2.5 inches at the bottom. I'm going to find that center point at the top and then come out 1/2 inch from that center point on each side. So that'll make the top about 1 inch wide. And then I'm just going to cut from that pencil line to the corner there, and the same thing on the other side. So I'm going back to my paper trimmer, and I'm just going to make those cuts. So again, the top will be about 1 inch wide, and it'll go wider towards the bottom of this panel. So that's again going to sit there on the front, and I want to color this in. So I'm using gathered twigs, ground espresso, and black soot to do my coloring. I'm starting with that lighter color, and I just want to erase those pencil marks really quickly here. And then I'm going to apply the gathered twigs all over. Just get a nice even coating of that. And with the ground espresso, what I want to do is come in from the side, and I'm just kind of pulling into the middle. So I'm kind of lifting and pulling as I go towards the middle here, just to create a shadow on the edges. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the black soot, not coming in quite as far, but just creating a little bit of a darker edge here for our little dirt road. And then I'm going in reverse order and blending that out. I'm adding a little black soot down at the bottom there just to finish off that edge. I wanted it to look kind of more distressed, so I'm going to place a little ground espresso on my glass media mat, spritz that with a little bit of water. But first I decided here I'll spritz the panel with water first, just to give it kind of more of an aged look here. And then I'm going to come in and spatter with the dark brown, the ground espresso ink. And that'll give us a lot of texture here on our little dirt path. Now I've got the cloud here, and this is the cloudy stencil from Lawn Fawn. And I've got the card and my grassy border, so I'm just going to determine about where I need those clouds to start. And to color in the clouds, I'm using peacock feathers. And I'm starting on the stencil and just pushing that ink up onto my paper. So you can take off some of the ink on the stencil first and then push up that ink just a little bit over that stencil line. And then I did decide I needed a little bit more down here at the bottom. So that gives us a beautiful sky. Now using my Lawn Fawn glue tube, I'm going to go ahead and glue this panel on. But I'm going to not put glue right at the very top because we're going to be tucking some things in there a little bit later on. So I want to be able to slide those in there. Now we have our little path and our car. I'm going to be putting 3 pumpkins in the car and the 2 little bears. So I'm going to go ahead and attach my bears. And then I'm going to load up that car with the pumpkins. I did end up moving these around a couple of times. I just couldn't seem to get them where I wanted them, but I did have one on one side, one on the other, and then this one in the center here as well. So I ended up bringing that center one up a little bit higher. So now, once I have that, I can figure out about where the slot needs to be for my slider. So I'm trying to figure that out here. So these are the sliders. These are the slide on over dies. And I'm going to grab that shorter straight one. And I'm going to place that right in the center of this little dirt path. And I don't want the car to go below the card. So this particular slider was the exact size that I needed. So I'm positioning it about a 1/4 inch down from the top of this little panel, and it will be the exact positioning that we need. So again, I centered it and I'm running it through my die cut machine. I do want to keep that little panel that we cut out. We're going to place that back in here. So I want to place that in first before I do anything. It's just easier to do it when your card is flat. So I'm just going to tape this down with a little bit of purple tape temporarily here. And then I can go ahead and glue this panel right in place. So I've put glue on the back of this and I'm just going to position that down. So now I can remove this little path and we can start working on the back of this now. So what I want to do here is add my foam mounting tape. And we're going to be doubling this up. So I'm going to cut this down and then we're going to cut strips of the tape as well. So the penny is going to be used for our little slider mechanism. So I want to make sure that I leave enough room around the penny so that it can move freely. So I'm just leaving that as my guide here to make sure that my strips of tape are narrow enough. And I'm going to cut 2 strips about the same width here, and I'm going to stack these on top of each other. That's going to give us a double thickness. And again, that will allow our little penny to move freely here. So you can see that's going to be nice and thick there. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom and on the top. Again, just doubling everything up here. Now the penny really won't go up over the top, but I decided to put a little bit of tape there just to be sure. And so again, I'm just adding the 2 layers. And then a little bit here down at the bottom. I don't want my penny to go too far. You could use this to stop the penny as well, but I didn't need to because that slot is the exact size that I needed it to be. So I'm going to add 2 layers of tape to my penny as well, right in the center. And that's going to fit right in that opening. And that's going to be, again, the little mechanism that moves up and down. So now I can, well, I was going to remove the backing here, but I think what I'm going to do is first remove the backing from the back of this panel and place it on my card. And then I'll know exactly where to position the car here. So I'm just holding on to that. We already know where this panel needs to be. We have that little slot area behind it. We can line it up exactly with that and the bottom of our card. And now I can remove the backing from the penny and then just position down my little car. And I want to make sure again that it's not going to go past the edge of the car of the card. So I'm just making sure that I position it kind of in the center there. So now I've got all my little pieces here and we can start assembling our card. So I'm again going to tuck a few things in behind here. So that's why I didn't put glue right at the very top there. And I'm adding my little corn stalks. I'm just going to add 3 to each side here. And then I'm going to pop up all the little pumpkins. So I added some foam mounting tape to the back of all of these. And I'm going to pop these up. And then I added some foam mounting tape to the 2 birds as well. Again, just to add a little more dimension. And I'm going to slide that one there behind the pumpkin. And this one, I just want to make sure here that it doesn't interfere with this little slider before I place it down. So now I did want to add a sentiment there right at the bottom, and it says fall is here, and that's from the Jump for Joy stamp set. So I went ahead and placed that in my MISTI. I removed the foam pad because this card is fairly thick now, so I want to make sure that it stamps properly. So I've removed the foam pad from my MISTI, and I'm going to place this down. I've already lined up my sentiment, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp that right in the center at the very bottom here. And I'm using the VersaFine Onyx black ink to do my stamping here. So by removing that pad, you can see we got a really nice stamping. Now with my Uniball Signo white gel pen, I'm going to add some highlights. And then with my Nuvo Crystal Glaze, I'm going to add a little clear glaze on the beaks of my little birds here, and also on the headlights on the car. So let me give you a closer look at the card, and you can see how cute this is with the little slider. I just love that. And we've got the sky and these cute little birds. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. As always, thank you so much for visiting today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.